and Joanne. You're welcome.
Good morning. Begin by thanking God for the inspiration and help. And I also thank Rabbi Steve to Julie for selecting me to do this and having the confidence to do
I hope she
this.
knows she has her presentation up there.
Ladies, thank you for volunteering to help. I would like to thank Hotel, Anthony, and Betty, who there every day and need help. So today we're on the start by the first snack is we're going to do the
Katane.
with the 7 species
I can just quickly, because they can give me.
which had all of the 7 species. We had figs, dates, we had wheat, barley, pomegranates, and we had grapes with raisins. And so the kids seemed to enjoy that muffin. I thought that would be like 90 of them left, but there was hardly any of them. And I had several people asking for the recipe.
One at a time.
So here it is. So you can ask, I'll get it to you. If you come up later, you can take a photo. So that's on the following day, we had, on the Saturday, we had the wheat and barley bread, which I was like, I don't know if the youngsters are gonna really like barley that much, but I mean, they like the barley bread. And it was a vegan bread because there was no eggs or milk or anything like that in it. So some of the kids were pretty happy that they was able to participate. And so we had wheat, we had barley, and we had I had a lot of spices in it. So they all enjoyed that snack also. So then we had grapes. So the grapes, I made little like grape bushes. And there it is. I made those little grape bushes right there. And the kids seemed to enjoy, they had grapes and pretzels. So then it was a day off. And then on Friday we had figs. So we had crackers with fig jam, and then I put some figs on there. So, I mean, a lot of these snacks I didn't think they would like, but they seemed to enjoy all of them. So then the following day on the Sabbath morning, we had a parfait. We had a pomegranate yogurt bowl, and we had wheat and barley flakes in there. We had raisins, dates, figs. We had vanilla yogurt, and we had a little bit of honey on it, and we had put the pomegranates on top. And I had several of the students come back and ask me, "Can I have more?" And I had one young man come in 3 times and ask me, and then he said I should give his mother this recipe. So I was like, "Who's your mother?" So on the Sabbath afternoon, we had olive bread with olive dip, and we had that was water, pimento stuffed green olives, ripe olives, olive oil, flour, sugar, Italian spice, salt, and of course yeast. And when I tasted it, I thought there was one ingredient missing, and that was garlic. But I didn't put that in. And I had 4 huge loaves, and I have one little small piece left, so yeah. And so then we had the dates. That's the olive bread. And then we had the dates, and there are several of the children or youngsters that kept asking me, "What is that?" And I had to keep explaining to them that's a date. Oh. And so, it's really important with this part of the program, or Ribbit's and Julie's curriculum, because some of these youngsters, they never seen a grape or a fig or a pomegranate, and they didn't know what it was, they didn't know how it tastes, but now they do. So now they'll know what that is or what it tastes like. And that helps them to learn, because when they read through the scriptures and they come to that, they carried the grapes on their shoulders. Of course, everybody knows what a grape is, but I mean other things, figs. The figs were large. They can understand now. Oh, I know what a fig is. I know what a date is, because a lot of them didn't know that. So with this, we just took a date and we put a slit in it, and we put some cream cheese and a walnut and a little honey on top, and they all seemed to love that. So, and some of them, actually one young lady told me, "Oh, I made them at home," and she wanted to eat half of them. So we kept telling her, you have to wait till everybody gets them. So there's what I did this week, and to serve the body and to serve all of you parents. And I enjoyed every bit of it, except for the cold. I enjoyed working and providing for your children. So thank you.
So next we're going to hear from the Catan A Mores. So we have Maura Sarah Beth and Maura Chrisanne, who are going to come up and tell you what they did this week.
Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Rebbe and Julie for creating these wonderful lessons. It is so beautiful how Yah hides such great truths in something as simple as 7 species. If we just have a teacher and the eyes and ears. It has been such an honor to work with this team, and especially Maura Chrisanne for the first time this year as my assistant. As always, I learned and grew so much teaching your children about the Word and myself. Thank you so much for that privilege, both to my leadership and the parents. I am so thankful for all of my helpers that signed up. Your service was truly a blessing. And a special shout out to Mr. Caleb Beard for volunteering as an extra helper almost every day in my class. You made a huge difference. Our craft for this week is a banner for the children to take home and hang up so they can remember all the lessons and fun they had this week. Our first lesson was wheat and barley. We taught that we need to guard the commands, remember his wonders, and not forget. And that obeying equals these wonderful blessings, part of those blessings being the 7 species. Yahweh takes care of all of our needs if we will just let him. We told a beautiful story about Abba's provision through the Torah for those that seek to follow his word, the story of Ruth. We played games all week. I think our favorite game was the cup stacking game. Miss Lily was our winner on Tuesday, the first day we played it. coming in at 6.16 seconds. She got all of the cups in perfect order. So lesson 3 on Wednesday, we taught grapes. The children listened to the story of the 12 spies with some really cool pictures, thanks to Miss Stephanie. The children approve. After the story, one of my children, Nathan, he's got to be a blue. He was so concerned and so trying to make sense of the lesson. It just so warmed my heart. And he's only 6. He asked me a profound question. Why wouldn't they trust after all they had seen? So I turned the question around on them, the whole class. Is there ever a time you're afraid but shouldn't be? Yahweh is right there with you. Trust him. It was beautiful to see the looks on their faces. It will forever be a reminder to me that I should always trust the Father. So because one craft a day wasn't enough for us, we chose to make 2 crafts for grapes, figs, and pomegranates. Our next lesson was number 4, figs. On Friday, the children got to act the story of the 12 spies again, but this time they got to do the skit. And it was about Wednesday that they really started getting comfortable with their song and memory verse. I am very proud of all of their hard work this week. They gave it 110. I'm very proud of them. Our second craft for fig was... It'll be up there in a minute. There we go. Next, we had pomegranates. Again, we told the story of the 12 spies because, of course, the 12 spies brought out from the land the grapes, figs, and pomegranates. But this time, I tasked my actors with doing a silent play. And the audience had to guess what story it was. It was really funny to watch. So our second craft for pomegranates was... There it is. It's a nice window decoration. Let the sunlight come through it, like a sun catcher. All right, next was olives. We got to read 2 stories that day, where the Father provided oil when there was great lack. One of them was the widow that came to Elisha. And one of my students asked a great question. I was very thankful for the opportunity. They asked why the woman went to Elisha. Why wouldn't she just pray and get her answer directly from Yah? So we got to talk about leadership that Yah has given us that we should go to when we need help. Next was dates. I hope I can be like the date palm, reaching down deep for the water, being strong, not easily broken by trials, and producing an abundance of sweet fruit for the Father. It was very beautiful, all the pictures and all the fruit. We also had the children write down something they were thankful for every day. We talked about not just being thankful for the fun things, but for the wildernesses that Yahweh takes us through, that bring us to the good land. Katane, say it with me, a land flowing with milk and honey. They're a little sleepy. All right, some of the things they were thankful for were friends, family, the Torah, their Morah, Yahweh having the class, and that thanks goes to Rebbetzin Julie, and Yah for inspiring her, and Sukkot. The children got to play one final round of the cup stacking game, in which Andrea beat Lily's record, coming in at 4.68 seconds. Now that concludes my part. It is now time for your children to show off what they've learned in song and verse.
righteousness. Let's thank Yahweh for his promised land. Walk, walk, keep moving along. Walk, walk, don't stop, be brave and strong. This wilderness is dry and rough until our King says that's enough. We're walking to the promised land. We're walking to the promised land. We'll grow the crops he loves the best. Peaceful fruits of righteousness. Let's thank Yahweh. Let's thank Yahweh. Let's thank Yahweh for his promised land.
Yeah. Wow, it's hard to top all that cuteness, isn't it? I want to introduce myself. Apparently, I forgot to do that. I am Rabbi Steve's wife, Rebbitzin Julie. All right. So, I am the Mora of the Catan B students, which were the ages of 9 to 12, and I had an assistant Mora, Miss Mora Stephanie Meyer. The children in the Catan B class received a daily lesson. I'm going to show that to you real quick here. It has a little bit of notes on it, but am I supposed to show it here? So they received a daily lesson where it was an interactive discussion by reading it out loud. The children sometimes got to read, sometimes the Moras read. We had questions in there. We had circling and writing verses. We also had Hebrew words to know, and we'll show that when we show the notebook pages. The children every day had a notebook page that they created, and in there we took the main points from the lesson and we portrayed it in a visual aspect for the children to take home. And so they should be taking those binders home today. So please let your children show you what they learned this week, because I know that they are excited to share it with you. Thank you. I have a question. Raise your hand if you're not tired. What? You're not tired? Oh, my. Okay, well, I'm going to put you all to work next feast. Okay. All right, so give me 1 second. On the first day, which was the first holy day, we covered all of Deuteronomy 8. We learned key concepts from that whole chapter about guarding, remembering. We learned that we should not forget him in good times, and that we also should not develop a me attitude. We also learned about the blessings you would receive if you followed and obeyed, and the curses that would come if you did not, and specifically in regard to the 7 species, because at that time, they didn't have, like a Walmart where they could go buy food or a Publix. And so they relied heavily on the blessings from Yahweh for their agriculture. And so that is why he says, remember me so that I can give you the blessings. And that was pretty much our theme for the whole week, is remembering him when he gives you good things, but also remembering to obey him so that he would want to give you good things, such as your parents do when you follow and obey them, correct? Okay, then on the next day we covered the 2 grains, which was the wheat and the barley. They are the only 2 grains mentioned in the 7 species, and they connect the 2 feasts of unleavened bread and Shavuot, and so that was appropriate that we would cover them together. We talked about verses related to the Torah in regard to right rulings, that you would take care of the poor, the orphans, and the strangers in your midst. And that is because when Yahweh gives you blessings, you should share it with others. We talked about verses related to the bread of life, which is Yeshua. And of course, bread is made from wheat or barley. And then we looked at verses about being wheat and not tares. And then we covered several stories about wheat and barley, such as Joseph's dream of the wheat bowing down to him, and also Pharaoh's dreams, and how it corresponded to famine because people would not obey him, and then blessing when his people would obey him. And of course, we covered the most famous story in the scriptures regarding the wheat and barley, which is from the book of Ruth, because she was gleaning the barley, and at the end of the book of Ruth, they were also gathering the wheat harvest. And then we also talked about always having an attitude of gratitude for whatever Yahweh gives us. And so at this time, I want to go ahead and show the notebook page that we did for the wheat and the barley. Okay, so there what we see is wheat stalks and barley stalks, and we see the priest waving the first fruits, and there's the wave sheaf offering of the barley, the Aviv, and that is related to unleavened bread. And then we also did the counting of the Omer to day 50, leading to Shavuot, and then the priests would wave the 2 loaves of bread made from wheat. And we learned 2 Hebrew words. We learned barley, which is seorah, and wheat, which is hittah. And that is our notebook page. The 3rd species we learned was grapes. In this lesson, we read verses that related to offerings, feasts, and right ruling toward each other. We talked again about how, just like with the grain, you would leave some for the orphans and the widows and the fatherless. The same thing applied to the vineyards. If Yahweh gave you the blessings, you should share it with others. We talked about bearing good fruit. Yeshua referred a lot to the vine and how we need to bear good fruit. And we talked about what fruit represents, and that is our deeds or our actions, and how we need to show the actions that Yahweh wants us to portray. We talked about showing Yahweh the fruit. What is our fruit? Are we growing every year? Or do we want to receive Yahweh's grapes of wrath? We talked about verses related to Yahweh's wrath against Israel for not obeying him, and how then he would curse the vineyard and that it would not grow when they did not obey. And then we also said, don't yourself be a spoiled, rotten grape, and we looked at verses corresponding to that as well. And then we ended with, choose from this day forward to bear good fruit. And now I'm going to share our notebook page. All right. So here we have The grapes, and the Hebrew word for vine is geffen. I know you've heard that word before when we do the Kiddush. So here you see the Kiddush cup, and the children wrote down the blessing over that. And that's it. The next species we covered was the fig. In regard to the fig, we spoke about many parables that Yeshua talked about in regard to the fig or the fig tree, and how if the fig tree was not going to produce, it would be cut off, and that corresponds to ourselves, that when we don't produce, Yahweh would not want to bless us. And then we did go into fig verses related to the blessings and the curses. And there were lots of them. Because over and over, Yahweh repeats himself, doesn't he? He doesn't usually say things once if it's important. He would say over and over, if you obey me, you will receive the blessings. And because they were an agricultural society, when their crops failed, they wouldn't have food. And then we also covered a much better time in the millennium in Micah, where men would be turning their swords into plowshare. Instead of being afraid of the sword, their sword would become a plowshare. And also, they would each man sit under his vine and under his fig tree, which represented safety and also the ability to do Torah without fear, to study Torah without fear. And then we ended with, what kind of fig do you want to be? An unripe fig, a ripe fig, bear no fruit, good fruit, or bad fruit. And our Katan B song comes from Habakkuk 3, which covers the figs and the vineyards and how when you're not doing what Yahweh wants, it does not grow. And so let's look at our notebook for the fig. And there we see the Hebrew word te'anah, and we decided to let the children not have to write such long verse, so we printed it out for them. And this is a beautiful verse in talking about the millennium. And then we had each children draw themselves sitting under a fig tree reading the Torah. All right. The fifth species we covered was the pomegranate. The pomegranate is known as the royal fruit because of the appearance of a crown above it. And it's amazing that it corresponds also with the high priest's robe, which had bells and pomegranates hanging from the bottom of it. And that also represents Yahweh's royalty. We also looked at the blessings and the curses regarding the growing of pomegranates. When Israel would disobey, they would not receive the goodness of the pomegranates. We talked about remembering and seeking Yahweh in good times and bad times, because sometimes in our lives, things don't always go exactly the way we would like them to, but do we at that time remember to thank Yahweh, or do we forget about him, especially in our youth? Do we remember him in all we say and do? Okay, let's take a look at that notebook page. All right, so here we have the verse for the instruction regarding the high priest's robe. And then on the hem, you can see here that we put pomegranates and bells. And the Hebrew word for pomegranates is rimonim. Isn't that beautiful? All right. The 6 species we covered were the olives, or the oil. of course, we did talk about the oil that was used to light the eternal lampstand, the 7-branch menorah in the temple, and how it came from olives that were crushed. We talked about the different uses of olive oil, and again, it was to light the eternal lampstand. We talked about that it was used for anointing the high priest and sovereigns or kings. And we also looked at verses that talked about using oil to anoint someone when they were sick. And we still do that today. And we also looked at verses for the special anointing oil that was made for the set-apart anointing oil to be used to use in the tabernacle. And we figured out the measurements and the cost in today's, and we came out that it would be about $420 for a gallon to make this oil, roughly. So we did a little bit of math this week, too. And we also learned that the special anointing oil, we're not allowed to make it. It was only to be used at that time and for that purpose. So no one is allowed to make it. So if anybody sells it, don't buy it. We looked at stories about olive oil, about the 2 widows, and how one of them was told to go fill up her jars, to gather jars from all her neighbors, and how she was obedient. And because of her obedience, she was blessed, and she was able to have enough oil to pay off her debt so her sons would not go into slavery. And then we looked at another widow who was sustained during a famine, again, because of her obedience to following the instruction of the prophet. And we looked at many verses about blessings and curses associated with olives. We looked at verses about the Mount of Olives' significance, and that Yeshua did a lot of his ministry on the Mount of Olives, and how when he returns in Zechariah 14, that he will land on the Mount of Olives. We talked about how olive trees are some of the oldest living trees, and that they say that there actually are some trees that were probably around during Yeshua's time. And in regard to oil, we talked about shining our light. Do we shine our light so others can see our good works? And that if we do not walk in darkness, we will not be able to stumble. All right, and now let's take a look at the notebook page for olives. Okay, so we have the Hebrew words for olives, ayit, and oil, shemen. And then we have the gold lampstand. And then the verse regarding you are to command the children of Israel to bring you clear oil of pressed olives for the light to cause the lamp to burn continually. All right, thank you. And last but not least, our 7th species was the date / honey. And we looked at the date in regard to the tree that it comes from, which is the date palm, in regard to Sukkot, which is, of course, what we are celebrating now, and how the date palm is one of the 4 species that is used to be rejoicing in front of Yahweh when we wave the 4 species, which is the Arba Haminim. We also talked about the verses where it talks about a land flowing with milk and honey, as the Katane children shouted out. And we looked at those verses and how the milk refers to milk from a goat, and how the honey is actually from a date, and how that symbolizes a land that is prosperous and gives you good things, and not just the literal, which would be the milk and the date honey. We also, of course, got back to the blessings and curses related to the land flowing with milk and honey, as Yahweh, again, repeats himself over and over, that if you obey him, you will get the blessings. You will get the land of milk and honey. And of course, as children of Israel, we want to all make it into his kingdom and be blessed with that. And we ended with, if we bear good fruits, then we will receive the good fruits. And let's take a look at that notebook page, please. Okay, so here what we chose to do was resemble or represent the 4 species. So you have the lulav, which is the date, that's the spine. You have the myrtle and the willow. And then you have the citron fruit, which is the etrog. There we go. And then there's the biblical instruction for taking for yourself on the first day the fruit of good trees, branches of the palm tree, twigs of leafy trees, and willows of the stream, and you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim for 7 days. And then we had the Hebrew word for honey, tamar. There we go. All right, so that was our week. It was a beautiful week. It was a fun-filled week. I had a lot of great interactive discussions with the children. I think Stephanie and I just can both say that it was just a fast week that was just a blessing to us. And we hope we have blessed you as well. Okay. And now our Catan B children will come up on stage and sing 2 songs for you.
So now we're going to hear from our Gadol A, Maury Wayne, and Maury Dale.
All right, guys, let's make a joyful noise if this is the best feast ever.
I'm Maury Wayne. I had a Gadol A. This was a very good week, very nice class that we had. They participated in everything. They really got to know and experience the scriptures firsthand to how it can be related to their lives today in their youth. We learned a little bit about how to guard the word, how to remember,
How to obey and submit.
but we figured it would be best if the children explained it a little bit more better. All right, we're going to do a take two on that.
Guard to do every command which I command you today, that you might live, and shall increase, and go in, and shall possess the land of which Yahweh swore to your fathers.
And you shall remember that Yahweh your Elohim led you all the way these 40 years into the wilderness to humble you, prove you, to know what is in your heart, whether you guard his commands or not.
And he humbled you, and let you suffer hunger, and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, to make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of Yahweh.
Your garments did not wear out on you, nor did your feet swell these 40 years.
Thus you shall say in your heart, as a man disciplines his son, Yahweh your Elohim disciplines you.
Therefore you shall guard the commands of Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to fear him.
For Yahweh your Elohim is bringing you into a good land, a land of streams of water, of fountains, and of springs, that flow out of the valleys and hills.
A land of wheat and barley. Wheat and barley symbolize what is the minimum basic need and what is essential to our physical diet, just as Torah is essential to our spiritual diet.
Vines.
Grapes symbolize fellowship with Yahweh. It is included in offering to Yahweh and the Kiddush we do before we eat.
Fig trees.
The fig tree represents the Yahweh's people Israel and its fruit. Figs represents our actions. It is most important for us to understand that Yahweh desires us to bear good fruit so that we can receive his blessings.
And pomegranates.
The pomegranate represents the extra good things Yahweh wants to give us in life. Pomegranates also represent prosperity. Just like pomegranates have crowns, Yahweh desires to crown us with eternal life. One example of pomegranates in the Torah is 1 Kings 7:18-22, where Shlomo built a temple and used pomegranates for columns in the temple. This represents majesty. This fruit is related to Sukkot because many people hang them from their sukkah.
A land of olive oil.
Olive oil is an essential part of Israel's culture because it is used for cooking, lighting, and offerings. The oil symbolizes many things, one of them being the children of Israel, because in Matthew 3:16, Yeshua tells us that we are the light of the world. We are symbolized by oil because Yeshua was light of the world,
and we are supposed to transform to the identity of Yeshua.
And honey. The date palm is directly related to Sukkot because the lulav, which is the palm branch, is one of the 4 species we are to bring to the feast. The lulav, which resembles a spine, holds the Arba Amanim together. Exodus 3:8 is the first time the term milk and honey is mentioned in Scripture, where Yahweh spoke to Moshe and told them he would deliver them from the hand of the Mitzrites and bring them to a good land, a land flowing of milk and honey. The honey referred to is from dates, and the phrase milk and honey is a metaphor, which means all good things and the blessing of Yahweh he will provide to you if you obey.
A land in which you eat bread without scarcity, in which you do not lack at all. A land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you dig copper.
And you shall eat and be satisfied, and shall bless Yahweh your Elohim for the good land which he has given you.
Be on guard, lest ye forget Yahweh your Elohim by not guarding his commands, and his right rulings, and his laws, which I command you today.
Lest you eat and shall be satisfied, and build lovely houses and shall dwell in them.
And your herds and your flocks increased, and your silver and gold are increased, and all that you have is increased.
That your heart then becomes lifted up, and you forget Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, from the house of bondage.
Who led you through that great and awesome wilderness, fiery serpents and scorpions, and thirst where there was no water, who brought water for you out of the flinty rock.
Who fed you in the wilderness with manna which your fathers did not know, in order to humble you and to try you, to do you good in the end.
You then shall say in your heart, my power and the strength of my hand have made for me this wealth.
But you shall remember Yah your Elohim, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth in order to establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is today.
And it shall be, if by any means forget Yahweh or Elohim, and follow other mighty ones, and serve them, and bow yourself to them, I have warned you this day that you shall certainly perish.
Like the nations which Yahweh is destroying for you, you are to perish because you do not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim.
If we guard, remember, do, follow, obey, walk, fear, humble ourselves, submit, and do not forget, then we shall be blessed and live.
Didn't they do a great job, folks?
I just want to say thank you to the leadership for giving us the opportunity. The Gedolei class is amazing. And just want to say thanks to everyone for coming to check out the video.
And I just want to give my thanks to Revison for everything that she has done. She inspired me to be a teacher and help lead these children in the way they should go. And I want to thank Rabbi. He's just for being our leader. I'm just so grateful for that. And I want to thank first and all true Abba, because he's the one that gave us the inspiration for everything.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so next we're going to be hearing from Maura David Hayes and Maura Christine Glover from Gadol B.
How do I do this thing? There we go. Good morning. Wow, I don't think I've ever talked to so many people at one time. Hag Sameach, Israel. So this Sukkot, I had the opportunity to work with David Hayes and the Gadol Bet students. I've learned so much from them and appreciate all the lessons that they've taught me and all the wisdom that I gained from watching David Hayes in the classroom. So today we have a brief recap of our productive week. Marty, could I get the slideshow, please? Sorry, I have a presentation here. He's working on it.
Give us just a second. We had to switch equipment to get to the right slideshow. So it'll be just 1 second.
Okay. While we're waiting, I can go ahead and introduce our students. We have Ben, Chaz, Stephen, Averia, Stephen, Ashlyn, Daniela, Annika, Elijah, Nathaniel, and Marcelos. We have a few more, but they weren't able to be with us right now. Do you have any thoughts that you want to share? Oh yeah, where's Wesley? Wesley, you have a part in this. Oh, there we go. Maybe. No, it's going to go too many times. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. So each day we focused on the specific parts of the 7 species. And so here's generally how our discussion flowed. First, we would look at the first verse containing the specific species. We read stories which related to it. We discussed the basic symbolism associated with each species. We read multiple scriptures and analyzed the lessons to be learned. And each day we put the information into pictures and diagrams to visually represent all the lessons and how they were connected. Overall, we discussed how to apply each lesson learned to our daily relationship with our Creator. And now you get to hear our students share what we learned. Okay. Chaz, Daniela, and Daniela? You can go ahead.
And you shall all remember that Yahweh your Elohim led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you, prove you, to know what's in your heart, whether you guard his commands or not.
Therefore you shall guard the commands of Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to fear him.
For Yahweh your Elohim is bringing you into a good land, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, and a land of olive oil and honey.
'For Yahweh your Elohim is bringing you into a good land, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, and a land of olive oil and honey.
'For Yahweh your Elohim is bringing you into a good land, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, and a land of olive oil and honey.
These are some of the foundational verses to start off our week.
Let's summarize what we learned about the wheat, barley, and grapes. Wheat and barley are in the top 4 grain crops sold in the world and symbolize strength, mercy, and kindness. Yeshua says to remember him when we do the Kiddush and Motzi because Yeshua is the bread of life and he is the Word made flesh. We are strengthened by his word. His word is a blessing to us. The grain are physical blessings to the Israelites too. They received blessings of full crop, then were commanded to give them back in the form of offerings. The grape, wheat, and barley were used as offerings in the temples.
They were also commanded to share their blessings by allowing the stranger, the fatherless, the widow, and the poor to glean their fields after harvesting. We drew pictures of different animals to show that the corners of the fields were also left for them. When Yeshua returns, his people are called the first fruits to Yahweh. So this is not working. It's not. Yeah. Can I just? Where do you aim it? Well, it needs to go back. So this thing's not exactly working. It's jumping ahead. Yeah.
It's advancing that.
Yeah. Marty, can you find the slide that has the wheat and the barley? There we go. Now what we were saying should make sense.
In relation to the grapevines, we read John 15. We brainstorm ways to put this into a picture. Here you see Yeshua depicted as the stem of the vine, his people as the branches bearing fruit. Some people's branches are bearing sour grapes and are thus cut off. Other branches are being pruned so they can go back stronger and more full of fruit. Yahweh's name is written above the vine, showing him as the vine dresser. Off to the side, we listed different uses and meanings related to the grapes. The words attitude and character are written because we are supposed to show the fruit of the Spirit.
Thank you. The next few slides are some pictures from the students' notebooks. I was very impressed with their notes, and I thought I would share them with you. The next one, we're going to talk about the figs.
There are many aspects to be discussed with all the species. For this one, we emphasize Jeremiah 24. We look forward to the full return of Yisrael to a promised land. We should work to be like good, ripe figs that are useful. Yah's people are called to have a heart for Yahweh. The figs on the right are ripe and full, symbolizing his people who have a heart for Yahweh.
On the other hand, Why did it appear? On the other hand, there are spoiled, rotten figs that are not useful. In this passage, Israel was said to be a reproach and horror to the nations, and thus carried off to captivity. The scriptures say how Israel trusted in their own walls rather than looking to Yahweh. We are advised to have an attitude of thankfulness to Yahweh and look him as a source for all that we need. We are cautioned not to trust in our strength and become arrogant. We are reminded that all blessings flow forth from Yahweh.
Now we'll look at the pomegranates.
The board shows a review of the species blessing thus far. At the bottom is drawn each of the crops with roots in the ground of guarding and fearing Yahweh. Also, the pomegranates have many symbols and imagery. Ultimately, they are found on the robe of the high priest and on the capitals of the columns found in the temple, and they symbolize majesty and glory.
The picture of the brain represents our mind in making choices to have good attitudes towards Yahweh and his blessings. An important scripture this day was Habakkuk 3:17 through 19.
Though the fig tree does not blossom and there is no fruit on the vine, the yield of the olive has failed, and the field brought forth no food. The flock has been cut off from the fold, and there is no herd in the stalls. Yet I exalt in Yahweh, I rejoice in the Elohim of my deliverance. Yahweh, the Master, is my strength.
Now we'll look at the olive slide.
On the olive day, we honed in on the oil from the olives being lit for lights. The oil is also used in the anointing of the priests, kings, and for healing.
Yeshua is the light of the world. His word is a lamp unto our feet. If we stay close to his word, then we can be lights to people around us. Olive branches can also be symbols of peace. The branches can be grafted into other olive trees, and they grow together as one. They also symbolize how we are grafted into the promises given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Now we can look at the dates and honey.
Do you want me to pause for David halfway in between? For his synopsis? To conclude our studies and discussions on this day, we analyzed the Sukkot equipment. But first, David shared an interesting concept. Since we are called to be lights and blessings to others, we asked ourselves the question, what would someone notice about me and about us as a group?
As a familiar and interesting concept to demonstrate what we look like to others and how we assess other people's, I told them, I said, we all know you only have one opportunity to make a first impression. And one of the things that we used on active duty and in many instances was a salute report. And the salute report consisted of size, activity, location, uniform, time, task, and equipment. And trying to take this and demonstrate to them that you evaluate those you see around you, and also you can use it to evaluate yourself to determine whether or not you're representing Torah in the nature of what we were supposed to do. So are we gathered together, the size of the people and the type of the people you're with, the activities that you're participating in, or even if you are participating in the activities related to the observance of Torah, and where you're doing that, like we gathered here to be together and to celebrate the Feast of Sukkot. And the uniform, are you equipped and demonstrating that you intend to follow Torah and it's in your heart to do so? Bring your zeets and other things that would enable other people to identify you, as well as to remind your brothers that you're serious and in walking this out. And the time and task, are you coming together at the appropriate time and doing the appropriate things while you're together? And the equipment, are you enabling yourself to have the tools necessary to be prosperous in your observance of the Torah?
With the 4 species specifically commanded to be brought to Sukkot, we drew a Venn diagram. One circle is labeled knowing Torah, the other doing Torah. The specific species represent different possibilities in knowing and doing Torah.
Ultimately, these species are bound together in what we call the lulav and the etrog. This symbolizes unity. Just as we gather together for the Sukkot, we are preparing to live in unity with Yahweh and with each other.
In wrapping this up on the next slide, our discussions were very productive, thought-provoking, and enjoyable. We laid some foundational points in learning to fear Yahweh and guarding his commands. Then we receive his blessings and share them with others. We should have an attitude of gratitude towards Yahweh and be a light to others as we carry out our daily walk with our Creator. We are commanded to gather together in unity at Sukkot to prepare for his forever kingdom and desire to be his good fruits in his kingdom. I'm so impressed with each student this week. These children are the future of YMTOI, and I pray that they continue in steadfast growth for Yahweh and his righteous right rulings. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone who took the time this week to help with the YMTOI program. Our parent helpers who signed up and were there when they signed up and showed up on time and was a blessing in our class. I want to thank all the snack helpers under Rebbitz and Joanne who took the time to give of their time and stand out on the cold many days and serve with a smile. Really appreciate that. I want to thank all those who work behind the scenes, you know, the camera people today who took the time to give of their time, and those who helped get our crafts and notebook pages ready. A lot of the Bet Shalom members helped us to cut out those pieces that you were able to see today. Excuse me. Is there anything else, any department I'm leaving out? And as a small appreciation, yes, and all the people that signed up under the activities, I want to thank you. If you could just stand up if you were one of those people I mentioned, so you can see how many people helped out this week. Please stand up, don't be shy. Yeah, other than the children, that's probably more than half of the people that came to Sukkot. So thank you. You are true servants, working together to serve the body. So as a small appreciation, we have a little video to thank all our team leaders.
Okay, so the next thing we wanted to do is, as you well know, Ribbits and Julie has established our Parsha Pearls program and has made it available for free on our website. And we are diligently working on our new website. And we have also been working in this last year when we haven't been publishing anything new. We've been working on that new stuff, and assuming I can stay awake long enough, I will be making sure that Bereshit is ready for you tomorrow. But we wanted to show you a little bit of our new look, because we have had some really wonderful, talented artists come alongside of us, and we have decided to up our game a little bit and make it look really nice. And we have a really good concept for our website. We're working on it and trying to get it up. But in the meantime, you'll still find at least the lessons on our existing MTOI site. Under the there's a YMTOI section that you can still find our lessons. While we're building the website, we will try to get it up as quickly as possible. But if we have that presentation, if you could get to the first slide. Okay, so this is a little bit of our new look. We've got one for Katane on the left and Katan B on the right. Dyslexic girl who's tired talking. This is bad. So this is our new cover pages that we're putting in. If you'll just go to the next one. Excellent. This is our table of contents. Our table of contents are, as you can see with the blue underlines, you can go to this page, and I believe if you do Control, it gives you the little uplifted finger where you can go directly to the page that you might want within the whole document. So this will show you and quickly get you to the page you might like to go. If you could go to the next one. Okay, so each one, what we've done is we've divided it now into a solid Katane and Katan B Gadol two separate documents, so they're not going to be combined any longer. So in the Katan A document, we do the story with the Parsha Pearls characters, and in the Katan B Gadol, there are those important points that Rebbitzin brings out in each of the Torah portions. Now remember, we don't cover the entire Torah portion. We typically take kind of one story or one aspect of it and really look into that. So our new one coming up, so the first year we did the garden. I'm sorry. See, what year am I in? So, rewind. The first year we did creation, because that's what starts Genesis. And this year we're doing the garden. So we're going to be telling that garden story this year. And then we do have plans in the upcoming year to tell the story of Cain and Abel. So, next slide, please. So you can see in our Katan A, we have some beautiful new characters, and we have even more beautiful new characters coming. We love the emojis that we've come up with to show when people have emotions. We're now going to have emojis that go with it. And yes, they are the YMTOI coin. And see if you can find the YMTOI shofar dude. You should be able to find him because he's almost in every coin. Do you see him? He's on the side. He's very cute. So anyway, next one. Let me go back and just say really quick, they don't have to move the slide, but we do provide a black and white and a color version. That's just for your convenience. If you would like to print them out in black and white and color them yourselves, that's what we wanted to give you the option to do, or you have the color where you can just print it out, cut them out, and use the characters as they are. So certainly for the Katan B Gadol, we'd like them to really interact and dig deep into the Torah portion. So we give the digging deeper section, and that just has some questions out there that are good for discussion. That is when we certainly encourage parents to interact with their students on that particular part, because we don't give answers. We just ask questions and make you think. Okay, next one. Okay, we've always given you some Hebrew, and we've given you the flashcards that go with it, but this year we have something new, so if you'll go to the next slide. We now are going to teach you how to write Hebrew. And so we have the word match that we had before. Thank you. So you had the word match that we had before, and then now there's going to be a little worksheet with an ability to learn. You can see we've done the characters and sort of the lines of which way to draw each character. Actually, it's not a character, it's a letter, because it is an alphabet. But then we give you lines off to the side to practice it. Okay, the next one. So we always have our memory verses, and then with this page is also, like the next page, which I did not put in this presentation, allows you to draw a picture to help remind you, to write it out if you choose to. We encourage you to, in my house, we act things out. So when I find a verse that has some really cool stuff, we act it out. So however it takes to get that information in, we just encourage you to really interact with this part so we can memorize the word. Okay, the next one. So we've always had the Seeking Treasure for the Katan B Gadol. It used to be the one with the clouds. We've updated it to have the gems. And then we added for Katan A, we've got a Seeking Treasure as well, where they'll look at the question and be able to circle a picture answer, because those can be from, that age 5 to 8. They're usually learning to read. They're kind of getting their feet underneath them. So we wanted to be sure that they understood the concepts without being tripped up by having to read so many words or write things down. So next one. Okay, so we will continue to have our word searches, at both age brackets, so that they would be able to just be reminded of the different words and terms that are in each Torah portion. The next one. So for Katan B and Gadol, we also do the crossword puzzle. We'll continue to be doing those. And the next one. We do have the mazes still at both age brackets. So we have one that's slightly easier and one that's harder. Sometimes the easier one seems as hard as the harder one, but that's okay. Keep working it. I've worked them each. Okay, and then of course we do have our craft and our notebook page. The Catan A's are going to be doing some very cool weaponry this year. Because our first one is the flaming sword, but we have some really cool ones coming up. And you know what? I'm so glad that the Godol are saying they want to make that, because Rebitson and I want to be very clear. We do this kind of separating it by age bracket, but please do what works for your family. If you guys like that one, and you at any age, do it, please. It's there to be flexible and to work with you, but that one is going to be a fun one. And then we also, of course, have our notebook page that we've created, and again, we got kind of a new team working with us this year, helping us out to get some of these notebook pages, and I'll tell you, Joni Schwartz has just taken us up another level because she does some really beautiful work. So next slide, please. And goodness, wow. My one didn't turn proper. I apologize. It's upside down. But there's, so we have like the panels for coloring pages for the Catan B and Godol, and then we have usually just a little easier one for the Catan A folks, that is the garden there. And again, another one of our very talented artists from the body has helped us with this one. And so we think they're doing some beautiful work. Don't you think some of this artwork is just beautiful? Okay, so next slide. Okay, and as always, we do have the music sung by Brianna, and you've heard the Yonah song. Did anybody like the Yonah song that we sang? She sang. She did such a beautiful job. So you can see the yellow boxes there because, well, I have to insert the link to it in the document. But there is a link in the document for you to be able to get right to that song from the document if you choose to. And then, of course, Rebitz and Joanne has been just awesome to work with us to create some of our snacks and be able to take pictures of those for you to see some ways of doing some creative snacks that relate to the Torah portion. Is that the last slide I did? I think it is. I think so. Okay. So anyway, it's going to be a familiar because it's pretty much the same, but we tried to add a few things this year to try to do to make sure that we're continuing to provide you with some good, solid curriculum. I think Rebitz and Julie and the content that's in there, is it not fabulous? Yeah, she does a super awesome job making sure that the content and the information in there is just really in line with the Torah portion. I mean, you should see, she's right there, even down to the artwork, and the artwork and the notebook page and stuff is very accurate to the scripture. And it's funny, as we look at it and we went, oh yeah, that looks right. And she's like, the bush wouldn't have been there yet. It needs to move. Wrong timing. And so really, it's very accurate to the scriptures. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about working with her, is that everything that she's providing, she's really trying to stay very true to scripture. So thank you.
Okay, we have another video for you.
All right. Awesome job, everyone. Fantastic. I feel slightly weirdly out of sync here. Fantastic. All right, so I just want to tell all the students that I am very proud of you. It was an incredible job on all the students. Fantastic. You know, we put this program together to be a blessing, and also we put it together because we can only imagine how hard it would be for the children to be here for this long and not have, what would they do? And the parents want to be able to do the things they need to do. And so we said, well, instead of trying just to occupy their time, let's find a way to occupy it and also help them engage. And they're engaging with the Word, they're engaging with, whatever the particular topic was within the Word, and hopefully engaging with Yeshua and the Father. And so it's a beautiful opportunity. And I remember when some of these classes we've had were like 5 people, and it was only one class. And now we've got 4 classes, and there's so many students, and it's just so fantastic. Children, did you enjoy the program? I remember a very strange moment that a parent had. This wasn't this feast necessarily, but in a previous feast, where the parent says, "What are you guys doing in that program?" I said, "Why?" They said, "My son woke up this morning and asked me to hurry up so I can get to class." Just like regular school, right? No. But they really enjoy it. They enjoy being together. They look forward to it. And because of programs like this, they look forward to coming to the feasts each year. And I know a lot of them are already ready to tell their parents, we need to go to Passover. We need to be here next time. So we're excited to let you know that we are going to be here at this facility at the Passover. So that'll be fantastic. And so it looks like everything has worked out very well here, and they're excited to book us through, it looks like at this point, 2025. So we'll be here for at least a couple years, at least until Abba provides us with our own space. Amen? Amen. So I'm really excited about the future for you children and for those that are transitioning to adulthood, to the Gadol Bet class. And I want to make a special... I know we already had the thanks and all that stuff, but I do want to especially thank my wife and Stephanie for doing such a fabulous job in putting this all together. And why don't we stand up for them? There we go. All right. I can speak for myself, but I think we should also really appreciate Mr. Kurt Meyer for giving up his wife as much as he did so that she could be with. Probably a little easier for me because while she's working on all of this stuff, I'm working on all the other stuff, so that kind of works. But, Kurt's got to give up his wife and mom to the children to get busy and keep going. It's a big sacrifice, and it's great. So I really appreciate all of that for the family there. And you owe me later. Okay. Okay. The program, I think, is fantastic, and I did want to mention a few things that weren't mentioned in that. Just very slightly, a thing that, you can use this at home, obviously a part of a homeschool program, part of your weekly Sabbath stuff. You could use it in your congregations. But as that was mentioned briefly about the older children, this is something you adults can go through as well, especially if you're new. Great program to really get a good basic understanding of the Torah portions and the Torah cycle, and fun too. I like the word search puzzles, actually, and there's a lot of fun to it. You can learn some Hebrew words, and it's fantastic. Don't be overwhelmed when you look at it that it may be 30, 40, 50 pages of stuff for each week. Just use what you want, use what you can, make it something that's, a part of your program of helping to bring your family into a closer understanding of Torah. All right, amen. Okay, last thing I want to mention, of course, they left me with an hour, so you're in trouble. No, I'm not going to take an hour. I'm going to take 2 more minutes. I just want to say that as we're going through all of this, it's also part of what we were excited about launching our YMTOI Academy. Okay, you can clap for that. The vision I was given a long time ago was always to include an educational piece. And actually, that was supposed to be a big core piece of what we were doing, was the educational piece. And so we're very excited to finally now have a school. It's a real school, and we have it with about 25 students in it, from little toddlers all the way up to 11th graders. And we expect that it's going to continue to grow, probably double or more by the time we get to next Sukkot. And so please keep that program in prayer, as we are going to need staffing and we're going to need other things to go along with the growth of the program, as well as more space, because we already have the program taking up most of the available space we have for them in the building that we now have. You know, we bought the building we're in only a year ago. It was right after Sukkot that we actually got the building, and we've almost already outgrown it, which is incredible. We just did not expect that to happen necessarily. So please keep that all in prayer as we look for more space and figure out what we need to do. Actually, as we figure out what He's already planned for us to do. Amen? Amen. Along those lines, we're also planning at some point then to open up a yeshiva. Okay, that would be for, graduate age students, for people to come in who want to train, college age adults who want to come and train. It also will be a place that we can help identify the gifts and talents, teachers, shepherds, some of the fivefold people, also things like praise team and other things that would go along with serving the body. Because after all, MTOI, and we haven't mentioned this all week, but the whole main sort of focus of MTOI is to work together to serve the body as effectively as we can. And so we're going to need more people to do leadership within the context of serving the growing group. I mean, after all, how many of you have been to like 4 or 5 of these with us? Okay? It's a lot bigger now, isn't it? Uncle Bob remembers the first one. I think we had about 40 or less, 35, something like that. Okay, 30 or 40 people. And now we're at 440 people. Okay, so, it's just really grown tremendously. I don't have the number in front of me, but I think it was somewhere around 410 actually made it, showed up, didn't get to cancel, didn't have health issues, some other problems. So we had over 400 actually in attendance, and that's just incredible. So praise Yah, all glory and honor to Him. Amen. Again, all you parents should be very proud of your children. I know you are children. We're all very proud of you. Excellent job. We look forward to watching you continue to grow and be a blessing and a light to the world around you. And so that will conclude our program. Before we close, I just want to ask the children if you would stay around for the different classes. The Rebbetzin would like to take a picture of you by class. And so please, children, don't just zip out. Just parents, give them a minute to come up, get the picture taken with their particular Katan A, Katan B, etc., Gadol and Gadol B, Gadol A and B. So anyway, wonderful job. Have a great rest of the morning here, and we'll see you at services at 1:15.